Reformation in Tudor England. The King's Great Matter. Henry's religious beliefs. Henry and Catherine of Aragon were firm believers in humanism, and they recognized that the Pope had authority over his marriage. Henry would still defend the Catholic Church and the Pope. He wrote the Defense of the Seven Sacraments in response to Luther's 95 Thesis, and this earned him the title Defender of the Faith. Concerns over succession. Henry needed an heir to secure the Tudor bloodline to the throne, but Catherine was reaching the age of menopause and had had a number of miscarriages and stillborn. They had one male surviving heir who unfortunately died 7 weeks later, and one surviving daughter, Mary. In 1524, Henry stopped marital relations with Catherine. A female monarch was still a taboo subject, and the last time they had one, it led to civil unrest, so a son was dearly needed. Chapuis was the Spanish ambassador, and he had to report to Charles V that Henry had gathered support to declare his marriage null and void. Henry claimed his marriage invalid, as she was his brother's widow. He used 2 passages of the Bible. He used Deuteronomy in order to marry Catherine, which means if your brother dies, you must take his widow as your wife. But later, he used Leviticus to divorce Catherine. If you marry your brother's widow, you shall be childless. The case for divorce. As they had failed to produce an heir, Henry needed to produce a legitimate son. Catherine claimed her marriage with Arthur was not consummated, so that Henry's marriage with her was still valid. In Catholicism, once you are married, you can only be separated in death. There was pressure on the Pope as he was being captive in Rome by Charles V, the Holy Roman Emperor, who happened to be Catherine's nephew. And Henry was already showing interest in Anne Boleyn, who had refused to have any relations with Henry unless married. Catherine of Aragon and her supporters. On March 1529, in the Blackfriars Court, Wolsey wanted to pressure Cardinal Campeggio, the representative of the Pope. Catherine made an appearance and was determined to keep her marriage. On the 23rd of July, Campeggio adjourned the case until October to meet in Rome. Catherine was willing to appeal in Rome if necessary. However, the court did not meet in October and Henry changed tactics. Thomas More replaced Wolsey as he had failed to gain the annulment. Catherine's English supporters. These were Thomas More and John Fisher, who was a humanist and Bishop of Rochester. They both believed the marriage was legitimate and could only be ended by death or annulment by the Pope. Fisher wrote 7 books full of a convincing argument for Catherine's case. More resigned from Chancellor as a result of his disapproval of Henry's treatment towards Catherine. Catherine's international supporters. Charles V supported her and prevented the Pope from granting the annulment. Support for her personally and reputation of the Aragonese family. Both Henry and Catherine looked for evidence for their cases from international scholars. Scholars in European universities exposed misrepresentation of Henry's Leviticus claim and challenged his interpretation on canon law. Cardinal Wolsey and Anne Boleyn. Henry was at first interested in Mary Boleyn, her sister, but by 1526 he tired of her and started showing interest in Anne. Wolsey prepared to act in response to Henry's demands. Henry and Anne sent many love letters. Those that survived are dated from 1527 to 1528. Anne learned from her sister and would not have sex with Henry unless they were married. Henry and Anne married secretly in January of 1533 before the marriage was fully annulled. Anne's downfall. On the 7th of September 1533, she gave birth to a daughter, Elizabeth, and in 1536 she suffered a miscarriage of a son. Henry told the courts that Anne had enchanted him, and believed that their marriage was not blessed by God. Cromwell found evidence for her removal, and she was accused of adultery, incest, and high treason. She was executed in 1536.